Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Sunday, October the 12th. As we like to do once a week, we're chatting with our good friend George Rodriguez from South Texas, who I'm sure is cheering the Dallas Cowboys. George, are you wearing your Cowboys jersey today, or are you
I
okay?
was, and we almost did it. We almost did it. It was a heartbreak at the last moment.
But this was supposed to be, on the schedule when everybody looked at the schedule. They had the Jets and they had the Panthers, and everybody thought, okay, these two they should win, and almost like an easy W's, as they like to say.
Correct.
And they did beat the Jets, yes, but they didn't play well. And even though the score is, a close score, it should not have been close. They should have won by a touchdown. So I don't know. I think I'm sure Jerry Jones. Can you imagine Jerry Jones flying back to the Dallas? I bet he's flying in a different plane.
Well,
because,
I mean, the fault is his. I mean, it's his team,
yeah,
and he certainly manipulates it. So, I can't say that. If he's going to blame anybody, he's going to have to look in the mirror.
Well, yes, I mean that's exactly right. It's he made the moves. He made the moves. So anyway, so they're two. I guess they're 2-3-1. 2 wins, 3 defeats, and 1 tie.
Yeah.
So the problem is they're in a tough division, and unless they turn it around very fast, they're not even going to get a wild card. So we'll see what happens. I don't remember who they play next, but the easy part of the schedule is over now.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
It's tough from here on out now.
It is. It's going to be tough from here on out. Now, another quick thing that I wanted to mention: tomorrow, Monday, is going to be officially Columbus Day. So if you have to go to the bank, they're not open, or the post office is not open either, or working. But I'm glad to see that President Trump, he signed a proclamation sort of bringing back Columbus Day and sort of saying, hey, we need to celebrate Columbus Day. And I think, I have a post coming out Monday morning about this, but I think what's happening is they hate Columbus Day because it's part of our heritage, and they seem to hate everything about our heritage, particularly everything that's European.
That's exactly right.
And you wonder, gee, okay, they're blaming Columbus for everything. I mean, the poor guy is being blamed for slavery, for segregation, for everything that the Spanish did in Latin America, or in the conquest of Latin America. And it is true that there were some things done in the conquest of Latin America that were not exactly pretty. Okay, I get that. But I don't think the Spanish raped any more Aztec women than they were being raped already. I mean, those were not exactly feminist cultures, not exactly very open cultures. When Moctezuma's forces arrested you, they didn't read you your rights. I mean, they didn't say, hey, you have the right to get a lawyer. I mean, so, they make it sound as if everything was this beautiful continent where everything was perfectly, everything was
Garden of Eden.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, the Spanish or the white guys show up and then everything goes to hell. Well, yeah, there were mistakes made. I'm not going to sit here and deny that. But there were also a lot of great things that came, the rule of law, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, a lot of human rights and civil rights that are here because of the people who came after Columbus, George.
Exactly. I mean, the situation is a cultural battle that is framed in historical references. We've got to understand that whenever two cultures clash, the weaker one is always going to win. I mean, that is, or lose rather.
Right.
That is a fact of life. That is the rule of life. And just like liberals seem to want the police to be gentle, but they don't say anything about criminals being gentle. It is the same ridiculous concept. This was not the Garden of Eden by any chance.
No.
The fact of the matter is that in the case of the Aztecs were dominating everybody around them, all the other tribes, and even eating them, besides sacrificing them, eating them. You had historical warfare in North America between various tribes, just like you have had historical warfare in Europe between various nations. The Poles have never gotten along with the Cossacks. The various Slavic people have fought among themselves. It's no different, than that. The Comanche and the Apache never got along. So this whole idea of how everything was great until the Europeans came along, I'm sorry, that's a lot of, as Mr. Biden would say, that is a lot of malarkey.
Right, exactly. That's a little rewriting of history. But I think Columbus himself, I mean, by the time he passed away, which is like 20 years, less than 20 years after he discovered America, I mean, my gosh, they're blaming him for everything as if somehow Columbus, and I'm just saying, hey, guys, again, I can speak as someone, excuse me, I can speak as someone who, I mean, having been born in Cuba, we were obviously settled by the Spanish, and my ancestors come from Spain, going back to, well, actually, my grandfather was actually born in Spain. But, I understand the criticism because some of it is justified. But somehow to make it sound as if everything was this Garden of Eden, as you say, and then Columbus shows up and everything goes to heck, no. That's not a fair story either. So I guess to make the point here, I am very, very happy that Columbus is back in fashion, that we're celebrating that part of our history. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. It's a big part of our history.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is, Silvio, that if it wasn't for Columbus, there would be no America. And so that within itself is great. Now, there are people in today's world, young people, enemies of our country, who don't want America. Okay,
right.
That's fine. That's freedom of speech to a certain extent. But the fact of the matter is that this is the greatest country that has ever occurred, that there has ever been. And if it wasn't for Columbus, it wouldn't exist.
That's right. And those guys who wrote
Get over it.
Yeah, well, that's it. Just get over it and move on with life and leave old Christopher alone. My gosh, the guy's been dead for 500 years? Leave him alone, or 600 years, I guess, or whatever. Just leave him alone. Let him rest in peace. He didn't do, I mean, all he did was, remember, he wasn't even looking for a new world. I mean, that's the funny part about all India. That's right. He was looking for a different route.
He just didn't pay attention to AAA. That was his biggest
That's problem. It. He didn't listen to his GPS when they told him to turn left. Yeah. Take a right, right. Exactly. Gee, if only the Panama Canal had been built, he could have gone right through
it and
to India. But then who built the Panama Canal? I think it was the descendants of of those people who came over, right? I just get insulted because I think it's an attack. It's an attack on our, I mean, they hate the country. They hate the culture. They hate the traditions. And they hide behind all of these, pardon me, they hide behind these symbols as if somehow they're doing it for a good reason. Correct. No, they're not. They're not doing it for a good reason. They hate the country. And they should get over it, move to another. It's like I was watching this demonstration today, or this confrontation today in Chicago, I think it was. And you got these people waving Mexican flags at the ice trucks. And I'm saying, people, do you know, have you been to your country and read your immigration laws?
Leave.
And, yeah, but that too. Go to Mexico if you don't like. Anyway, let's get into our topics today. Well, we got a shutdown. You probably heard about that.
Yes.
That we got a shutdown. Now, you were telling me off the air that when you were in Washington, you went through 3 of them.
Yes.
What's it like to work for the federal government and go through one of these shutdowns? Well, what is kind of the the perception of most people? Do they simply say we get a couple of weeks off and we'll be back with pay in a couple of weeks, or are some of them really worried about it, George? So you were
No,
through it. Tell me.
some of them do worry about it, because there are some people who do not know how to handle their economics, their personal economy. I mean, they don't know how to handle their money, and you have many folks who are low level staff who do live, paycheck to paycheck, and those are the ones that are always impacted and affected first. But on the other hand, you have a lot of folks who are mid-level people who don't really, don't really suffer, at least immediately. If it goes longer than a month, yeah, some of them do begin to feel it. And then, of course, you have the upper level folks who, it takes a while for that to be reached. Now, that's who gets hurt. However, we need to understand that when a shutdown occurs, it happens in increments. It happens in stages, as far as the people that are most or that are least needed go first. Clerks in agencies that are not really, that are just simple bureaucratic agencies, all the way till the military and law enforcement are the last ones on the list, and they are the last ones to be let go. They are essential personnel.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the folks that are kept. I, being in a managerial position, I was the only one in my office. They closed down the office, and I handled everything in my office. I handled the calls, which, to be honest with you, was not a big deal. It was not a big deal. In anything, the shutdowns show that the government can be shrunk, and this is one thing that the federal employee unions and the Democrats refuse to allow to happen. And I think that this is happening already right now.
Well, now go ahead.
Go
Go ahead and finish. No, because I wanted to ask you just some practical questions about what it's like like where you were saying you were working by yourself in that office. Like, do the landlords, for example, realize, if you're renting an apartment or a mortgage or something, do they realize that you're in the middle of this, and they say,
Yes.
okay, well, we're gonna defer your payment?
You will get a letter. You will get a letter after 2 weeks. You get a letter that you are able to show to your creditors, to your landlord, et cetera, showing that you're in the midst of a shutdown. And at the same time, most people, already know that there's a shutdown. It's just a question of who. And if you show them this letter, they, of course, will work with you. My observation has always been that there's never been a situation where people have not been, where they haven't gotten a break, where they have not had some assistance. Now, on the other hand, you've got a lot of people who are dramatic, who will scream and yell and faint and whatnot, because that's the way they are. And so you do have a lot of those folks, and the media loves to play on those.
Right, exactly. But I mean, I would think that if you're a landlord in the Washington, D.C. area, and that most of your employees are federal employees, that what's going on.
Correct.
So it's sort of like when you have, a plant shutting down, or a plant in strike or on strike or whatever, that you have workers at that plant, and why they're short of cash. You would think that most of those landlords are willing to work with you. Also, most of them will get their money back, I think, or will have their money. They get paid later. I guess that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's not like they lose their salaries.
Right. They do get paid later. They do get paid.
So I mean, they're going to be, you'll be able to catch up with whatever rent or
compensated.
But one thing that is happening this time that is a little bit different is that there's talk of a layoff, and that I don't recall happening before. Now there are actually some people who are not going to go back to their jobs. And is that the first time you've seen that, or did
Yes,
that happen before?
yes, there have been many attempts to do layoffs,
Right,
and they have always been fought against by the Democrats and by the unions and by the media.
right.
This time around, the Trump administration isn't paying attention to that, and they are going to cut the fat. You've got so many employees that were hired during the
Right.
COVID thing that I mean, it ballooned. It absolutely ballooned. You also have all of these thousands of IRS agents that were hired that will get laid off, and this is going to be one way that they're going to cut the budget is by using the layoffs. Of course, the federal government, the unions, the Democrats are screaming that you need all those personnel. Well, no, you don't, and you can see it during the shutdown.
Yeah.
And based on the shutdown, I think what's going to happen is when it's opened back up, the managers are going to be told, okay, how many do you really need, or who do you really need, and who don't you really need, and that'll be the end of it.
Now, they're going to challenge this, I assume, in the courts. They're going to
I think they
say
already
that,
have.
but
Believe they already
I
have.
think they did with one agency or something. But as far as I can tell, the courts are favoring President Trump. Now, not
Yes,
so much because of President Trump, but I think they're saying, hey,
he's
Article 2 of the Constitution, he's the
exactly.
president.
He's the chief executive officer,
Exactly.
and everybody works at his discretion.
Right. So I think in that respect, the people may find out that these layoffs are permanent. Now, I assume that they're not just going to be thrown out in the streets. They'll get some kind of a package or something to leave, or maybe provided with some money to look for
I
another
would
job, something like
imagine that
that.
they will get some kind of severance pay, but
Yeah, that's right.
again,
That's right.
I'm not sure about it.
Yeah. But that is the difference, though, George. You've been through it 3 times, as you said. That is the difference, that some people this time are not coming back.
Yeah, and this is the anxiety that they've got, because every time that I was through it, that we went through those three,
Yeah.
you fully anticipated that they're going to call you back. And that in one case we were only off for 2 days, in another
Right.
time we were off for a week, and in another occasion we were off almost a month.
Wow.
But
Yeah, I
this
think there was
time,
one.
yeah,
There was one that was like under Trump. I think there was one that was like 35 days or something.
yeah, right, yeah, there was one under there was about 35 days. That was about a month. But
Right.
in this case, I do not see the Democrats backing down on anything or wanting to, and certainly the president is not going to give in anymore. I mean, you've given the from what I heard this morning, the president's people have already said that compromise has been given with Democrats, and this is what has brought us to this problem. And they're tired; they're not going to compromise anymore. So
Well,
unless the Democrats, give something, I think that this is going to be a longer situation.
And more layoffs may happen
Correct.
as a consequence. Now, the what makes this particular shutdown interesting, different than some of the others that I recall, and you know this better than me, having actually gone through them. But me, I've seen them from the outside, looking in or just following the news. But what makes this one different is that the Republicans, the Speaker and the Senate Majority Leader, basically said, we're going to simply agree to a continuing resolution. We're going to keep everything in place as it is, and we can negotiate. So there weren't any cuts. I mean, basically they said the budget as of this day stays until we negotiate.
Right.
And the Democrats are saying, no, you need to make these cuts or those cuts. Well, that ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching Senator John Toon talking about this, the majority leader, and he was saying, we're not going to go back and redo the beautiful bill just because they didn't like it.
Exactly. Which is what they want.
Which is what they want. Yeah, which is exactly what they want. Now, one of the things that they're making a big deal out of is, of course, Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act, which has never been affordable, but that's another story. And they're trying to turn this into a big political issue. But my position, George, on this is that we don't need any more evidence that Obamacare has to be fixed. I mean, Obamacare is like the car that you keep taking to the shop, and every time you're spending more and more money on it, more and more money on it, and then 2 weeks later you got to take it back and more money. And look, you reach a point where you say, maybe I just get rid of the car, take the bus for a while, and buy a new one or whatever. But there's simply, I don't think putting money into Obamacare, George, is going to make this a better program. We've already put in, I don't know how many billions of dollars, and maybe it's time to say, you know what? Let's just scrap it and start from square one. And you can still, keep some things like the pre-existing conditions. You can make sure that some people under a certain income level have access to insurance. I mean, there are things you can keep without having to keep Obamacare itself, George.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's Obamacare is a mess.
It is.
And I think that they're trying to complicate it even more by making it affordable to everybody. And by that, when they say everybody, I mean, that includes illegal aliens. So number one, the resistance has got to be, why expand it when it's already broken? When it's broken, why do you want to make it more expanded to more people when it's already not able to serve the people that it's got now? And then
I mean, I don't understand how you can have a program where every year you have to increase the subsidies. At some point, you have to say, folks,
enough.
Maybe it's time to change this program. The example that I used of the automobile that you got to take to the shop every 2 days.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point you say, either I get a new automobile or I sell this one or I get rid of this one, but I can, there's only so much more money I can put into it. And another thing with Obamacare too, is I understand, I didn't know this, but during COVID, they put half of the world in Obamacare. It seemed like they put a lot of people in there, and they created
everybody.
Yeah. And they created a lot of subsidies. There are people who shouldn't be subsidized to have Obamacare.
Exactly.
The other thing too, George, and this goes back to the 2008 campaign when healthcare was an issue. And I remember Senator McCain saying that what we should do is simply give tax credits to people so that they can go out and buy their own policy.
Amen.
So we'll give you a tax credit. You go out and you buy your own policy in the private sector. And, we're going to give you, basically, we're going to buy the policy for you through your taxes. And you can almost set it up in such a way that you don't even have to pay it. I mean, the IRS and can have an arrangement with these companies so that they go directly into your tax credit. And I always thought that was a much better idea. To me, Obamacare was a bad idea from day one, but I never thought it would be as bad as we thought it. As we predicted that it was going to be a bad idea, but I have to tell you, George, I never thought it would get this bad.
Well, here we are, and unfortunately, there's an unwillingness by the Democrats at this point to try to even fix it.
That's it. And they're not going to be able to get these subsidies through the Congress, so they might as well drop that, because you're not going to get these subsidies. I mean, I was listening to, I think it was one of the senators. I can't remember the name of the senator right now, saying there's no way he vote for more subsidies. And they're going to have a very hard time getting the subsidies. Well, let's talk a little bit about Texas before we run out of time. There's our primaries, of course, in Texas coming up next March. I think it's still in March, right, George? Unless they've changed the timetable. And very interesting, there seems to be there's going to be a Democrat primary and a Republican primary, very active primaries for the Senate, Democrat and Republican. On the GOP now, you have Wes Hunt, who is a congressman who is coming in. The last poll that I saw, I think you sent it to me, it was like 38 Paxton, 36 Cornyn, and whatever the balance is. So nobody's going to come out with 50% on that arrangement. And then on the Democrat side, it's I'm not sure what's going to happen there. But this fellow Tellerico is getting a lot of free publicity, George. What do you make out of this guy? I mean, he never says anything other than he's disappointed with both parties. Okay, well, that's nice to hear. But tell me exactly what you're going to do. But he never tells you anything, George.
Well, I mean, to me, he's a typical liberal who refuses to admit what he wants to do. He is being very, very facetious. Some people would say he's being very slimy. He's just not willing to admit the facts as to what he really wants to do and how he wants to do it. And other than he disagrees with everybody. Well, okay, got you. All right. Very, very interesting. But at some point, you're going to have to tell us what you are for and what you want to do and how you're going to do it. And I am not sure that this guy is going to be willing to do that until very, very late in the game.
Well, I'd like to know how he actually differs with Democrats. I would love to know when he says that he is going to criticize both parties. Okay, that sounds like
Great.
a neat idea. Tell me exactly where you disagree with the Democrats.
How so? Right.
Yeah. Are you, for example, going to get to Washington and vote against the Democrats because you remember John Tester out of Montana. That was his whole, that's how he got elected. I'm a farmer from Montana. As soon as he got to Washington, he left the farm in Montana and he became, honestly, the third senator from California.
Right.
Because he voted just like a Democrat. And hopefully that's what they forced this guy to explain. Now, so far, it looks like he's up against Colin Allred, but Jasmine Crockett seems to be, she's still the one leading the polls.
She's not even running.
Right. So there may be some.
Also in third place is Beto, and he's not running.
Right.
Two people that have not announced, two Democrats that have not announced are among the leaders. And I find that to be very, very strange and unusual for the Democrats.
Well, I tell you, I love to hear what is it, James Talarico? Is that his name, James?
Yes.
I love to hear how he differs. Before he tells me how he differs with the Republicans, I can wait for that. But I would love to know how he differs from Democrats. He says, for example, that Democrats have a difficult time speaking with men. Okay, that's true. But tell me, what are you going to say to men?
Exactly.
That is different. What are you going to do about girls or boys in girls' bathrooms? Do you differ with them on that? These are the questions that so far he hasn't explained, George.
No, and I don't think he will. I think he's going to try to wait as long as he can to explain that. He is not going to do it unless somebody really challenges him on it. And I don't see the other Democrats really challenging him on it because they are, they are all birds of the same, birds of a feather. Right. Now, the situation is eventually the media should ask him. The media should pin him down. But I don't see that happening either because I think that the media is in love with him just like they were with Beto initially.
Right. And you're right, because it's almost like he reminds me, this guy Talarico reminds me a little bit of Mandami in New York, the guy who's running, who doesn't say anything, but everybody thinks he does. He talks about, well, I am against the big guys, the big, fat, rich people. Okay. Right. Good. Tell me exactly what that means, but he doesn't say anything. And that's what I think. Now, I think a Republican can tear him apart in the campaign. Yep. If they do if they have the right campaign, if they go after him correctly. I'm hopeful that's what's going to happen.
Ultimately, what do Democrats stand for? That's the whole
that's
problem.
True. That's
what
it.
Do they stand for? Other than abortions, other than men and women's lockers, other than an open border, what do they stand for?
Well, that's another issue on the immigration. Where exactly is Talarico on immigration? Because, don't tell me that you want immigration reform. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. That's like me saying, I want to look like Paul Newman. Well, that's not going to happen. Okay. That's just not going to happen. That's just not going to. So immigration reform, that's not going to happen. They don't have the votes to make that happen. And that's not even a solution. So now one person that could tear him apart, in the Democrat primary, it could be Jasmine Crockett.
Right. Yeah.
Because if she got in, she's gonna go after
Well,
her.
I mean, he is the worst enemy of Jasmine Crockett. He's a white male.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. But I don't think do you think she's running? She hasn't announced anything.
No, I'm not sure.
But she may not have a seat in the House.
I don't know. I mean, I think she will throw her. She's too much of an egotist. I think she will jump into it.
Well, I mean, it's her. What is she going to do? I mean, she's going to be running in a primary with like 2 other Democrats.
Yeah.
So it may be. I mean,
I think she will. I think she will run.
Well, if she gets in, then I think she'll change everything we've said tonight.
Yeah.
Because she's a real character. Now, let me ask you another question about the primary. This is a debate we've had for years here in Texas. Should they open it up so that everybody can vote, or close it so that only registered party members can vote? But what's your gut feeling on that?
Well, I speak from personal from personal history with my family, with my parents and grandparents, and they always wanted a closed primary because there were so many Democrats that would be involved in the primary, in the Republican primary, and they would influence it tremendously, and so they do not want. I mean, I for one agree with them, and I do not want outside influences outside of the party. The party is the strongest and the biggest, and I think that it should be the one that makes the decisions. It should not be influenced by people from the outside who are not party members.
Right. It's not really a party primary if Democrats can vote from one person or another.
That's exactly right.
And in essence, change, so you get a candidate who is not even really the choice of the Republicans.
Correct.
But, he so I agree with that. I think
we've had those. We have had those kind of situations in the olden days in the Republican Party that were there. I mean,
right.
That's what would happen. Of course,
this situation with voting in the other guy's primary, it reminds me of that hilarious little thing that Rush Limbaugh came up with back in 2008 when Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama were running, and Rush Limbaugh came up with Operation Chaos. Remember that?
Yes.
And Operation Chaos was he wanted people to vote for Obama. He would say to Republicans, vote for the one that, basically vote for President Obama or vote for, at the time, Senator Obama and Hillary Clinton. I don't remember what title I don't think she had a title at the time. I think Senator. Yeah, Senator Clinton or Senator Obama, depending on which one you wanted to hurt most in your state. And that was called Operation Chaos. And he had this thing going on the radio every day. It was hilarious, Rush Limbaugh and Operation Chaos. So every time I think of these open, closed primaries, I'm reminded of Rush Limbaugh and Operation Chaos. You remember that, don't you? I'm sure.
I remember.
Yeah, if you listen to Rush, and that was one of the highlights of his radio career, Operation Chaos. It was hilarious. And the way he would describe it, too, was just so Rush. I mean, so beautiful the way he did it. Well, President Trump is in the Middle East. I guess he's flying. He should be landing very late tonight, I guess. And we'll be there the next couple of days and come back maybe with some hostages. I sure hope so. And I think it's a huge victory, it's a huge victory for the families of the hostages. Let's put that one first, because these people, they're the ones really paying the price. And politically, yeah, I say this is a big victory for the Trump administration and for President Trump himself, George.
Yeah, this initiation of a peace process. It's very, very difficult for me to understand how anybody can be critical of it.
Yeah.
He has jump-started a peace process, and both parties have agreed to it. Both parties are being very serious about it. This is what people have wanted. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden it's there. The only people that are upset, for whatever reason, are very staunch pro-Palestinian militants. And that is one of the things that I think shows exactly what the problem is in the Middle East.
Right.
It is not people who want peace, who are willing to live next door to each other. It is people who are militants who want to erase Israel.
That's right. They want to eliminate Israel, and that's not going to happen. So, I mean, they might as well accept the fact. But most of the countries, and this is one of the great things I think that came out of the Abraham Accords, I think a lot of the countries in the region are beginning to realize, hey, we got to coexist with Israel. Just like you remember when President Sadat they accepted this back in the late 70s when he signed that peace deal with Egypt, so look, I think more and more of these countries are beginning to realize, you know what, we're not going to be able to defeat Israel. They're always going to be able to fight back. So let's make the best of it and coexist with Israel. And I think that is one of the reasons I believe that the timing was right to make this happen, because a lot of countries are saying, look, it's over. We can't fight these people. They're not going to destroy them anyway. They got too many weapons and too many good airplanes, and we're never going to be able to. So I might as well just accept them and try to exist peacefully with them and maybe do some business while we're at it. So anyway, so I think it's a huge victory for the world, but I'm happiest, of course, for the families of the hostages, because they'll have their...
I think that President Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize.
He does.
I know that he's not going to get it because it's controlled by liberals. And I think that once again, that shows who has interest in peace and who does not.
Right. No, I think you'll get it the next time. Actually, that's my gut feeling. I think hopefully he will. I think this lady from Venezuela, as I understand, Maria Corina Machado, the process had already begun before this Hamas thing was done. So I think I'm glad that she got it this time, but I do believe that if they don't give it to President Trump the next time, then they need to shut down the agency, the Nobel. They need to shut it down, send everybody home, because it's a worthless organization if they don't give it to President Trump the next time. Well, George, I promise you and I will talk very soon. So thank you, as always, for your time on Sunday night, as always, and I really appreciate it. And you have a great weekend. Any speaking engagements coming up this week?
I'm going to Houston this Thursday at noon, and I wish I had the address, but I'll post it.
All right. Now, I just out of curiosity, do you fly or do you drive when you?
No, I drive.
You drive, yeah.
Yeah, I drive. Yeah. It's a lot easier than flying and then getting a car and then getting picked up.
That's the thing. That's the thing, that if you fly,
it takes longer.
That's right. That's right. Then you got to get to the airport. You got to get to the hotel. Then you got to get around. You might as well. And many of these speaking engagements, I assume that you do. I know when you came to Dallas, that's the way it was. They tend to be in the suburbs anyway. So you don't
exactly.
You don't have to go downtown anyway for.
It's not anywhere near Love.
That's right. But at least you can drive to it. You can drive to it, as I recall the last time. Well, George, thank you so much, and have a great weekend. And we really appreciate your time, and we'll get together soon.
Thank you very much.
All right. Our good friend, George Rodriguez, our good friend from South Texas, talking about a few things. I thought it was interesting to hear from George, because he went through some of these shutdowns as a federal employee, which is obviously a different and unique perspective when you're actually going through it as someone working in the federal government. So I thought that was a very interesting contribution that he made, explaining that tonight. And then on the matter of the Texas politics, I'm telling you, this Democrat Congress, not even a congressman, he's a state rep, James Tallarico, who is running for the U.S. Senate. He's a very talented young man. He's very telegenic. He's very good at telling people what they want to hear, but he doesn't say much. He says he's going to be critical of both parties. He's very critical of Democrats, but specifically, how is he critical? I'd like to know more. But he does come across very well on television. That much I can tell you. And I think he is going to be a political force in the Democrat Party. I saw this note before the the show tonight, that Democrats feel momentum for the first time in some time. Well, maybe they do. I heard that about Beto too back in whenever it was 18, and that fizzled out quickly. Thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.